You're listening to the All Birdies No Bogeys Podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro. I'm your host, Brian Earhart. My co-host, Nate Perkins, is up there in Oregon. The Northwest Disc Golf Championship is complete. I don't even know what to say, Nate. You were out there on the ground all weekend. That was an entertaining weekend of disc golf, both divisions. Lots to talk about. How are you feeling? What did you pick up from the weekend?
I'm still in disbelief. I have to pick my jaw up off the floor. I yelled. I just audibly gasped when the putt hit the ground. Of course, it's hard to imagine what AB is going through. And I think that was my first reaction, is not how could you miss it? How could you miss that putt? But more what is he feeling? I haven't felt it on that level. I've missed putts for the win, but to miss, what is it? What was it? 12 feet, 14 feet, maybe, to miss that. And to see, him hiding behind the hat and just sinking into the ground, he just wanted to disappear. And so that was just my first thought, was what is this young man experiencing right now after missing that virtual tap in to push the playoff? What was your reaction?
Well, Nate, I love that you just jumped into the topic that I think we all want to talk about, is this battle between Gannon and AB. Let's jump into MPO. Let's start the show off with that. We can work backwards. If we're going to talk about the putt, and I'm sure everybody who's listening to this podcast has either watched the post-production or watched the live and felt the emotion with us. Anyone who's a disc golfer who has missed any putt that they cared about, especially when it comes to a tournament or even a league, if you really want a putt to go in from that range and you miss, I want to ask your physical sensation that you feel, but I felt what AB was feeling. My whole upper body kind of went cold. It was like my heart area felt cold. I got goosebumps on my arms. I felt like my lower body tense up. It was just absolutely heartbreaking. And we can talk about this as well, because I think the whole disc golf world wanted to see AB playing at his peak, go head to head against Gannon Buhr playing at his peak. We might have gotten another showdown just like we saw in 2014 Worlds between Paul and Ricky. It might have been an instant classic playoff that gave us even more entertainment. So yeah, just super sad. But Nate, yeah, what were you feeling physically when you watched that?
Yeah, it's just the intense amount of empathy, right? That there's this mix between anger and shame that he's experiencing, right? He's ashamed that he missed a putt, but also angry because it's how could you? So I was just feeling it strong for him, and yeah, I felt also robbed of a playoff, right? I'm just so stoked. We're about to go into a playoff. I'm already thinking about what they're gonna do on hole one and how far, AB's gonna push the flick. Will Gannon go away from the flick? I'm already thinking about hole one, and just couldn't really accept that we weren't going into extra innings. And yeah, just in disbelief, man. And going a little bit further back in regulation, the putt that Anthony missed was not the only kind of jaw-dropping mistake of the round for either of the players, right? There were so many moments where I just couldn't believe that they made a mistake that drastic. Even, coming down the stretch, I'm thinking about AB going deep, going 50 deep on 14 and going OB there, and then Gannon not turning his shot over on 14 and fading out left there, and then hitting that tree directly in front of him. I saw a human side of Buhr during a final round at an event that he was playing well for the first time in almost 2 years, right? We saw him deliberating over putts for longer than even he normally takes, right? On hole 3, his first bogey, he sat there and looked at a 22-foot putt for a little too long, right? And then he goes on to miss that one, and then he did it again later in the round, just sat there and It was on the 18th, right? He sat there and looked at that final shot, had 4 discs with him, and it's just not the typical Burr that we see, showing up ice cold final day. So it was pretty crazy to see them both kind of giving up big mistakes back to each other, giving up strokes. It was a surreal final round.
It feels like both of those guys knew that the win there obviously almost feels like a major. It's starting to feel like this tournament in Portland with the gallery size, the venue, uh, the scenery around you. It makes you feel like you're playing a real big disc golf tournament. Yes, the prestige there is very high, but also the player that you probably respect the most. I feel like if you were to ask each of these guys, who do you respect, the most as one of your competitors? It's probably going to be each other. It's probably gonna be Gannon saying AB, AB saying Gannon, and I think they wanted to take that win from each other because they were both playing at their peak, and it means that much more to get that hard-fought victory, and especially with guys that have already won enough tournaments, you want the stakes to be high. I remember hearing Gannon when he was first starting to win just tell us how much he absolutely hated playing under stress. Hated playing under pressure. He wants a 30-stroke lead going into the final day. Otherwise, he's gonna be miserable for 18 holes on
Yeah.
Sunday. But I think it's changing a little bit, and I think it's changing a little bit for AB. AB still does say after almost every win how stressed he was. It hasn't really gotten easier. He said the same thing after Cascade. And you saw it in the play, like you said, there was some shakiness of just not quite being deliberate on the line. He would find the groove and then get back into it and string together some birdies. But it was a shaky 18 for Gannon and Anthony. And I think it's because both of them wanted that win from each other so bad. Um, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In the modern era of disc golf, the culture has changed so much. Post COVID, things are so much different than they used to be. It's such a bigger world of disc golfers. The way it's filmed, the way it's talked about, all the media coverage, it's just a different landscape. When Paul and Ricky were starting to really refine their rivalry as competitors pushing the sport forward, there wasn't a lot of that. When Paul won his first world title, that's when post-production was starting to even become a thing.
Yeah.
So, talk about your opinions on Ricky and Paul and kinda what they did to the culture in pro disc golf and why they're so magnetic or why they were. Their rivalry isn't really a thing right
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
and why Gannon and Anthony's is magnetic in this modern era. It really feels like that's the main attraction.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me for Paul and Ricky is that they were both pushing the limits of where professional disc golf was at, right? They were redefining what you had to do to even be competitive in the game. Like physically what they were doing with the discs, off the tee, throwing 500 foot with precision. They were two of the early guys with that. Ricky was kind of a big pioneer for the power forehand and the consistency out past 400 feet. And then he was one of not the only guy doing this, but he was one of the guys redefining C2 putting, right? And the nose down pitch putts from circle two, he kind of was redefining. He created that, right? LeCastro was also another guy who really figured out that pitch putt from C2, but Ricky really cemented it and won majors with it. And then Paul, of course, was just the most precise player, at 500 feet and in, and was the most elite shot shaper, right? He redefined the amount of shots that you needed to have to be competitive, right? It just pushing the limits of what's possible, and I think that's what Gannon Burr and Anthony Barella are doing, right? We're going into a new era of speed, right? It's not that much faster than Paul and Rick throwing in their prime, but enough to have a difference, right? They're throwing the disc past 80 miles per hour when they need to, and they're both just capable of birdieing pretty much any hole that anyone can come up with. And so the ceilings are just being pushed to even a new limit. And I think that it's so clear that they are the two best players now, and it was so clear then that Paul and Ricky were the two best players. So I think there are a lot of similarities, and there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to be seeing them battle for. I said this weekend, the next 20 years. I was talking to a fan. They asked me a question. I think they're both going to be playing into their prime, late 30s even. So we've got 20 years left of this battle, and I'm all about it.
What I also love about Gannon and AB and where they're at in their careers and, where they're at age-wise, they grew up observing professional disc golf, refining their skills, and then seeing kind of that era where every single player was starting to deal with some sort of overuse injury. The elbow, the UCL, the shoulder, the labrums. They already know this. They know that this is a problem. They know that this is a hurdle that you have to get over in order to have a long career in disc golf. And frankly, let's be real with it, you're gonna have to have a long career in disc golf and a successful one if you wanna actually, quote, unquote, "retire" at the end. How many players, Nate, are actually going to get to do that when it's all said and done? And I'll just straight up ask you that question. I know you're kind of involved with the business of things.
It really depends on the us taking the next big step to where we have $1 million prize purses. But if things remained exactly how they are right now, you're talking about a dozen players that are retiring and not having to work again if they play for 10 years. And I think if you have a marginal player even playing for 2 decades at, top 25 level, I don't think that they are going to be retiring on their payouts from their career or their sponsorships. So we'd have to take the next step. So a dozen or less.
And to go back to my point, they know that to be a pro athlete in disc golf, there are all the other prerequisites that have to come with the duties of the job. And they're doing that. We've seen Gannon talk about lifting weights in the offseason, putting weight on, trying to get stronger. AB is always in the gym. He's sponsored by First Form, and it's because he's one of those guys that's always in the gym trying to get stronger. And I feel like Paul and Rick kind of started to define that. I know Avery Jenkins, I'm not going to overlook him. I think he was one of the first guys to put out even a workout plan back in the day about disc golf. And also when it comes to power forehand, I think he was the first guy that really showed me it was going to have to be a tool that you used. And then Ricky kind of started running with it. But when, AJ started doing those things back in the day, I started thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I have
The
to have
spiker
that shot.
forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
Mm-hmm.
to have a 400-foot spike forehand with a Firebird, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, jumping forward, these guys are gonna push things even farther because both of them right now already can do everything that Paul and Rick can do. And back in the day, they were more specialized, and that was kind of also the magnetic part of their rivalry, was the way they attacked the courses was different. But
Yeah.
now it feels to me like I don't even know what the strengths are for
Yeah.
either of these guys, right? Am I crazy in saying that?
Yeah, I think that AB has a slight advantage with like his speed on the forehand, but even Gannon is matching that and throws a little bit more glide in that category. So they're like almost equals there. And they go back and forth with each other on their gap hitting abilities, on their distance driver shot shaping. And I think Gannon has had this slight edge in the putting category, but that is also, the differences are small. And with Gannon, becoming more human this year from C1, AB is, going back and forth with him there. So they are pretty evenly matched. I think that Gannon still has the slightest advantage, but it's a small margin enough to where if his execution isn't as high in a given week, AB is going to be right there.
Yeah, neither of them are having an absolutely stellar year from Circle 1. Anthony Barella is currently 39th on tour. He's putting 82% from Circle 1, and that's what's killing him. That's what's costing him all the strokes. Gannon's having a little bit
82?
better year. He's 86%. He's 14th on tour. So
Wow.
he's making
82 is low. That's crazy.
very low. Yeah. So, that's outside of, Pro Tour Championship, level of players. So, that's clearly where a lot of his strokes are getting bled. So there's the edge there in that category. But when it comes to driving, it feels like, yes, Gannon in the stat categories is still leading, but when AB's locked in and he's ready to compete for a championship, we saw some of the stuff that he was doing today. That Segara shot, I believe, what was it,
On
16 or
17
17?
on
Oh my
17, that
god.
approach, that was nasty. After his roller hits the tree, right? He let the roller down a little left and hits the tree instead of like curling way up and into the middle, and was way out of position and turns that one through the gap. And if that one gets a little closer to the bucket and he cashes that, he's going into 18 with the two-stroke lead, and there's nothing he could really even do to give it away then. But yeah, Gannon's approach and putt there, so clutch. The tension was all time high at that moment. And then into 18, I think we actually have a little flyover of 18, Brian. 18th, they back this up so that you still have to hit a gap first. It's like 20 feet wide, but it's a gap, and you have to clear this pond. To clear the other side of the pond, it's a solid 400, but players are really trying to push like 450, even 475, get in front of those late furs, and then nestle up before you go too far left. There was a bit of a right to left wind coming down the fairway, and so if you threw it with too much hyzer, the wind would get underneath it and push it OB left. And so you see Gannon during the final round, Brian.
Mhm.
Gannon actually like lines up to where he's making sure to push on the right side of the gap to push that driver out there.
It's so smart. I actually noticed the same thing. I saw him lining up on that left side of the tee pad, thinking, "What is he even thinking about doing? Like, what kinda disc is he even trying to throw here?" But now that you mentioned the wind, it is the worst possible wind, and this is exactly what he's going for. He's trying to hit that right third of the gap with a little bit of hyzer, flip it up a tiny bit, and then hopefully get a soft landing. Almost didn't, pushes it up, perfect, challenges the OB left, and then this was just a shank. I mean, luckily he got a wind bounce and he throws 80 miles an hour
Huge.
and throws pretty stable nukes, but, that's not a good
He
side of the fairway.
No, not at all, Brian. He broke his brace leg early. You could see him open up. That's exactly what you do when you're nervous, right? But he was still in a prime position to win, right? He can still birdie and force Gannon to get up and down with for the eagle. And he hits the tree. AB hits the tree right in front of him, right? He had a 18-foot gap. And then Gannon completely grip locks it into the fur. It's just no one can make sense of what's unfolding. Just can't make sense of it. AB throws the chip around the Mando. So
Ah,
all AB has to do is get up and down from like 160.
oh, it's
And then
nothing.
talk about this shot, Brian. Did you notice how much Gannon deliberated over that approach?
He stood over it for so long, and it's because of that mature tree and the other one on the right side that's more early that has the ceiling. He didn't know if he wanted to throw the backhand straight at it. He was too nervous. He didn't know if he wanted to go outside forehand or inside forehand. Luckily, chose the outside. And then AB, this is just a nervous shot. He was trying to throw hard and flat and kind of challenge the wind and slide it up there and just
So
fluffed it.
nervy. So nervy, man. And yet he still, I'm going to say this was 14 feet. I still can't believe it. He hits the right side, lower third of the chains. I'm not going to say that this is a 50-50, right? This is
No, it's
worse.
a miss
This is worse than 50-50. Okay, he missed the putt. Sometimes we do see baskets pull that putt in.
for sure.
That doesn't mean for me that I can even remotely call this a spit out.
If it was more hyzer, maybe, but it definitely was too right. He would tell you the exact same thing. But it's a weighted coin toss, and he knows that those
Whoa.
putts are center cut every single time.
And Gannon is in the background and he can't even believe it. I just
Yeah.
saw that shot for those watching all birdies on YouTube on Jomez. Gannon has his hands on his head. He can't believe it.
He's probably thinking playoff already. He's probably
He
thinking,
can't
what am
believe
I gonna
it.
do on one?
Oh, dude, this was the craziest miss, craziest shock factor moment for me in years, as far as the negative shock
Now
factor, right?
now we gotta have AB or Gannon on the next show, next weekend. Um, have one of them talk about the situation in more detail. But remember when AB had that situation on hole 16 at the Beast in Nokia?
Mhm. Mhm. Oh yeah.
Everyone was talking about it. They kept wanting us to talk about it for so long. Like, what's this gonna do to his mentality? How is this gonna, sharpen him up for the next time he gets a chance to win?
Yeah.
Is this miss gonna do anything other than make him wanna punch the wall?
Fire. It's gonna fire him up. Has to. I don't think that he was gonna enter any kind of, apathetic zone if he won. He's gonna be fired up if he wins too. But I think that this just adds a little bit more fuel, right? He's gonna spend a little bit more time on the putting
Mhm.
green in the coming days.
Well, Nate, let's back up. We skipped an entire storyline that I think a lot of people were happy about. Let's go back to Milo McIver. The tournament started at an iconic historic course where a lot of the holes, even in this Riverbend Gold layout, are the same as they've been for a long, long time. It is a special place. And
Yep.
walk us through the energy out there on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
watching Paul Ulibarri kick off the tournament with an 11 under par. I was fired up, Nate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was emotional, honestly, seeing the score from day one, but then to see him play at a high level during round two with the lead. Paul telling the cameras took you guys long enough on that opening 11 under par, but it was really day two for me that was impressive, right? It's one thing to do it off camera, day one, shoot a hot round, best round of the season, really best round in years. But then to show up during round two, I wasn't sure what he was even bringing to the table. Right, I haven't even seen him play in years now, which is strange to say because I used to play with him quite often, and then we used to watch him quite often, and now we don't get to see him on Jomez or the Disc Golf Network. So he impressed me, and I'll tell you, he had what, a round and a half of golf at the level you need to be at to win a tournament, right? And so to me, it tells me he still has it in him. Paul Ulibarri could still win an Elite Series tournament. Will he? I hope so. And I hope, I know a lot of fans out there are really in his corner, and they were really in his corner this week. And it was too much for him in Portland, but he still got it in there. He still was throwing 450-foot ropes out there, and he still has a really, he's mastered angle control, mastered
Oh my
nose
god.
angles, and he's just so in tune with the stability of his discs. Like, he's a veteran, and he's leading, nearly leading the pack from C1. He's putting over 90%, I think 93% Circle 1X. So he's still got it in him, and I hope he can bring one home, Brian.
I I've said this multiple times. I toured with him for about 3 months before he tore his ACL at this tournament in 2019 at Blue Lake. And those 3 months, I learned so much from Paul, but also so much about him as a person. All of the life lessons I learned were just from listening to him kind of talk about his own journey as an athlete, and as a young person, really lost, not really knowing what he was gonna do with his life, and then just falling head over heels for disc golf and just saying, "You know what? Screw it. I'm not gonna play golf at ASU. I'm gonna just go into this full force. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I'm just gonna do it." And it's that mentality of, "I don't care how crazy people think I am. I'm going to do it." I have taken that with me into the rest of my life because I think you can psych yourself out to going out and checking the mailbox. anything. And if you can learn from Paul and just take the step, go do something that you want to set your mind to, you'll find yourself a
Yeah.
lot of times in a better place. And he truly believes that he's going to still win. And I, I don't doubt him that he believes that. And I think he still
Yeah.
has the skills to do it. He has this unbelievable confidence, but also it's mixed
Yeah.
with this undying love for competition. I remember on tour with him, we're in Tennessee, and he's like, "Hang on, I'm gonna pull over here." We go to, I think it was Cedar Hill was the course. And I was like, "What are we doing here?" He goes, "Oh, there's a flex start C tier that I'm gonna play." And this was like, 2019. He had a great season. He had a really great season in 2019. And he's like, I gotta go play these little C tiers so I can train and throw the hardest shots that I possibly can throw. So when it's time to win worlds, I can throw those shots." He
Wow.
used those tournaments to train. And
Wow.
here I am afraid to sign up for the flex start to hurt my rating or whatever. My ego was
Sure,
not letting
sure.
me go in there. I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I came out here on tour to play the best tournaments in the world. I'm not going to play this C tier." And here's Paul completely humbling me and going out and doing it. And, uh, I don't know. I love a player that embodies the spirit of the touring professional disc golfer,
He
and
really
doing it
does,
so
Brian.
oh my god, man.
He really
It
does, man. And I love that I love your admiration for him. And I actually have a couple tidbits to share about how Yuli affected me. I used to play with Germ and Yuli a bit when I was first touring 2016, 2017, and I was trying to qualify for USDGC 2017. And Yuli came out there to just walk the course with me and support me and, talk about shots with me. And we finished. I barely missed qualifying. And, he kind of sat me down and he looked at me and he was like, "You can be as good as you want to be at this game. That's who you are. So if you want to be good at the game, keep doing it. Keep playing." And it had a huge impact on me. And then flash forward 2018, Waco final round. I'm on the lead card playing for a dub, and Yuli grabs me before the round starts, and he's like, "You're already a champion, Nate. Go be that champion." Like I hadn't even talked to him for a year, and he comes up to me and just and gives that to me. And then he's the guy who I'm playing in New Zealand, and he's sending me a message, a personal message. This is now it's been 2 years or so since I've talked to him, and he's like, they're finished, Nate. They can't do it. He's like pumping me up through Facebook Messenger about the New Zealand national title. And when I hadn't talked to him for years, and this isn't even like broadcast live anywhere. He's just like looking on the PDGA site, sees that I'm playing in A tier, New Zealand, and sends me a message. I'm like, that's the kind of guy he is, right? He loves the game and he's just a good dude. He loves competition. And I think he's had a big impact on a lot of players that he hasn't even spoken about, right? That people don't even know about. So he's a special guy. He's easy to root for, and it was pretty emotional to see him play at a high level this weekend.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off you saying that he's kinda mastered angle control, the shots he was throwing on the dream hole, I think it was 9,
Yeah. Oh, with the
he just
drive.
throws like
Ooh.
helicopters. They look like mid-ranges out of his hand with a 10 speed or 11 speed. It's just perfect spin, perfect wing angle, perfect height. It's so hard to get a disc to look like that, and it's really interesting. He can make a disc fly straight. It's hard to put this to words. When he throws a disc straight, it looks different than when a lot of other people throw straight, and it's kinda cool.
Sure.
It's kinda cool. But the last thing, a lot of why he can do that is because of another lesson he taught me is when you're a sponsored player, you get access to a lot of plastic, and you can go to the factory, you can get a stack of 20 buzzes if you want. They could be all the same color, all the same weight, all the same stamp. Yuli told me something along the lines of, "You're gonna like 2 of them. 2 of them are gonna stand out above the rest of that stack. They're gonna fly just a little bit closer to that shape that you're looking for, and hunt for those and you don't settle. And he's really, really picky about the discs he puts in his bag because
Yeah.
he knows exactly the shapes he wants to throw. And if the disc doesn't do exactly that when he throws it the right way, he won't touch it. And it's how I treat my comets now that I'm kind of getting back into competition. I know exactly how I want them to fly, and I'm going to try to find the one that does that. So, yeah, shout out to Paul. Congratulations. Still a great finish. I think he was 14th place.
Yep. 14th
Something
place.
yeah.
And you know who else we have to shout out, who somehow, even with Paul's performance, gets top 10, first Pro Tour of the year, beats Macbeth. Like, look the list of people that Nate Sexton beat. He ties Calvin Heimberg, beats McMahon, Gossage, Ezra Robinson, a winner this season. You know, Paul Macbeth, who's playing well this season. It is one of the stories of the tournament that Nate Sexton, in his first Pro Tour back at a Elite Plus 4-round tournament, gets top 10. That is just ridiculous, man.
Hang on. Hang on. Tosi, run that forehand turnover again. For the people watching, you just need to watch this. But for the people listening, he throws this insane low ceiling turnover with a forehand that if he throws it 2 inches too low, cut rolls into nothingness. He is so confident in his skills and he knows the flick so well. He's another guy that just knows his stabilities perfectly. He is the high IQ golfer. He shows up, he picks apart the course. He's really intelligent. I think he's going to absolutely murder Masters, as he continues to play these majors. It's going to be a real treat to watch as more of these guys, Big Germ,
Yeah,
Paul Ulibarri is close to 40. Paul and Ricky are going to get there at some point. Nicola Castro. We better start showing some more Masters tournaments on the Disc Golf
we
Network.
will.
I'm here for it, man. I am so here for it.
No, it's already compelling, and it's going to get even more compelling when those guys make it. And yeah, I mean, LaVisca, Joe Revere, Paul Oman, like Masters is dope.
Well, Nate, wow, that was just an unbelievable tournament, and it's super sad, bittersweet ending. But Gannonburg gets another win. We're getting close to that European stretch. Obviously, some of the players are over at Ale right now in Sweden. We're kind of doing that checkerboard of tournaments.
Yep.
Czech Republic, and then now here in Portland, we're going to Sweden, and then we're going to the Preserve.
Yeah.
Um, but we're getting close to the big stretch, man. The major in Estonia, major in Nokia, Tampere. What are you thinking about the players ramping up? Who do you think are the top prime candidates to take down a title?
Oh man, it's kind of crazy. For FPO, we have 3 majors in 2 months, starting with a major that is a completely different stage than we had this weekend, right? We're playing in Manitowoc, right? Jim Van Lannen, which was the home of this second Disc Golf Pro Tour ever,
Mhm.
right? The Silver Cup in
Mhm.
2016, and we're going to be playing some courses that I think is going to bring more people into the mix for FPO. So obviously I'm huge on our, what is it, Big Five at this point, right? I'm big Holyn, Missy, Kristen, Silva. I think I really want to see an Evelina and a Henna come back and show up and be in that mix. Owen Scoggins is going to be brought into the mix there.
For
It's an
sure.
interesting dynamic when you shorten the distance to birdie. By the average distance to birdie is going to drop by almost 100 feet from the Manitowoc Major from this event here. So it just really brings a lot of people into the mix. And then for MPO, I think that I was actually pretty stoked on Ezra Aderhold's like comeback here to get fifth. I honestly think that his name should be included in the list of guys that could potentially make a push. Because the first one that we're gonna have is Estonia's before the major or before
Yes.
Worlds, right? Yeah,
Yes.
so it's Estonia, then we have the week off. And I think Estonia is gonna do a very similar thing, is that you remember the course that they played there last year, right?
Yep. Yep.
It's
The
a
stadium.
birdie. It's a birdie fest, right? Are we just playing the one course for Estonia?
Don't quote me on this. I believe we are,
Yeah.
but don't quote me on that.
And that is also where you shorten the average distance required to score out there tremendously, and it really becomes anyone's game. I think our same crew we're gonna find them at the top, but there could be players that we really don't see very often striking hot at the first major over there in Estonia.
I agree. I agree. I'm looking, unfortunately, at the stats on the putting green, and Henna's is just it's too far gone at this point. 51% from C1. Um, but then you go to Evelina, defending world champion. I thought, it was done with. But she's sitting at 62%, which
She's had a
is
tough year,
better.
man.
It's better than it's been in the past. So, you have a significantly better weekend. You put 75%. Who knows? You might be on top. You might be the champion. So, I think Evelina goes in the mix 100%. I think Missy Gannon, I think Kristen, obviously, Silva and Holyn. I think those are my 5.
Yeah.
Um,
For me,
that
Paige
that
is
are
in there
yeah,
too. Paige has gotten herself back in
true.
there,
That's
right? It's
true.
just she is, dude. She was throwing
That's
some
true.
shots that players can't even visualize in their mind. She threw a 450-foot drive shot on hole 10 during the final round today. I know she didn't really bring the heat at the final round, but she's back, man. She is totally back. She's leading the field in C2 putting, and she just brings that electricity. And I think we need her. We need her back, right? We need the
So
Europeans and her, everyone playing good.
that's what I'm getting excited about. And yes, you're right. Paige is starting to really come along. She's starting to really come close to winning. The magic has started to dwindle late for her, but the putt looks good. The timing is getting there. With certain discs, the timing feels like it never goes away, but it
Right.
feels like her, this is just my observation. The miss is it's almost like her alignment on the shot wants to throw that kind of inside out hyzer flip with a fierce, and you can kinda get away with kinda opening the hips up on purpose and kinda popping the nose up and letting it ride over. Sometimes it feels like she's doing that with, faster discs, and so you're moving a little bit faster with the faster disc to throw harder, but your weight is going one direction, and the release point, when you're really slamming a driver, it's really out in front of you, and it's going a different direction. So that's where we're seeing the drivers kind of pull out full rip, but going in the opposite direction that she's trying to throw, and
Yep.
that
You're
could
spot
that's just
on.
yeah, that's just me
Yeah.
looking at it on camera, but, at the end of the day, it's not as bad as it once was, and I I just wanna see her catch fire and be in the mix again, because this is what I'm excited about, what I was trying to say. Just like AB and Gannon going head to head playing at their best, I wanna see that whole core of champions in the FPO division rise up at Worlds and just lean into the competition and just bask in it. And that's when things are gonna get fiery for everybody, and it's gonna be a blast to watch. But for the men, man, it's just hard to even think about. Because World Championships, it feels like in the MPO division, there's certain players that just come alive. And I feel like Paul's gonna be in the mix. He knows that course. I believe he's won at Nokia 5 times.
At
Um,
least.
Gannon's won there. Eagle McMahon won there. The one of the most compelling weekends of disc golf I've ever seen with Eagle
Yeah.
McMahon. Ricky plays phenomenal there. Um, AB is AB. He's almost won this tournament. Man, I don't know.
Isaac showed up for
Yeah.
this
Oh, of
tournament.
course.
I mean, what he ended at 28 under par, so he was 5 back, but he really lost the tournament at Milo and came back at Glendoveer. Yeah, man, MPO is compelling. It's good stuff. They both divisions really are, but you want to talk about Holland's kind of dominance this week. I felt like that was Holland's most complete tournament I think that we've ever had from her. Even, this was her 6th win, her 3rd Elite Series plus. But her like decision making, I said it in the broadcast a few times, decision making and just course management are just unbeatable. I mean, Kristen is obviously her rival, but it's hard to even compare because she's just not making any dumb decisions out there, Brian. Even when she's executing poorly and missing a shot or nose up fluffing a forehand, she's missing on the right side, and I just never see her getting into trouble when she has that like early airspace to work with.
You were talking about the tempo on her push putt, and really,
Yeah.
rhythm on a push putt is everything. Can you kinda talk about that in a little bit more detail, what you were kinda seeing?
Yeah, so for me, when a player gets nervous on Sunday and you have those putts coming down the stretch, a lot of the times what you'll see is a player kind of like fire last minute, right? For me, I used to call it the Perkins panic putt, right? I'm like panicking. I'm like, "Ah, fire it in there, right?" I'm like, oh, I made it. Cool. And you'll see even the
Uh,
best players in the world, like even Gannon, he like shortens his arm like to put on
uh-huh.
17 today. He just like shortened it and just like buried in there real quick, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I made it." But Holland today, she was letting the putts like slowly fall in there, right? Her pace on her putt showed me her heart rate's low. Okay, she's really settled. She's not really nervous. There's not a ton riding on the result of this putt. This is a beautiful make, and the roar that she let out right there. It wasn't excessive, but she looked at the crowd and just gave a mean roar with the fist pump. But the 25 footers is really what was doing it for me, just gently popping them up, and they were falling into the left side chains, no chance to spit out. And to me, that shows me that she is kind of ascending to that next level of comfort
Oh, yeah. Oh,
when
yeah.
it comes to down the stretch, which is the only thing that was keeping her from more wins last season.
She's racking up more wins. She's putting herself in the position to win and actually doing it, and she needs every bit of that experience that she can get going overseas to Finland, where Kristen just can trip over her shoelace and win a tournament. She plays so unbelievably tactical on those courses. Um, I cannot wait to see what the US players bring to the table when they go to their home turf and play the majors, because Holland is showing up to bring it. I'm watching Missy Gannon, who we've barely talked about. She looks like she's ascending to a new place. She looks
Oh, she
so
is.
confident on the putting green, Nate. We
It's
talked about
insane.
this a couple shows ago where sometimes as a player, you step up in a tournament to a 40-footer and you just start laughing because you don't think there's any chance you'll make it. The wind is swirling, it's coming and
Yeah.
going. You just have
Yeah.
to guess. It seems like she's making so many of those putts
Dude,
with
she is.
absolute confidence.
Ryan, round three. Okay, the Missy lost the tournament during round three, and to me, it was just one of those rounds where just wasn't falling her way. Right, she wasn't crazy off or anything, and it started with hole one. She leaves it a little short, leaves it a little low on the approach, and she has like a 38-foot putt, elevated basket, OB behind it, right? And what does she do? She hits the pin and it rolls OB. And then she buries the 35 footer coming back for the single bogey. Okay. Next hole, hole two, she throws it OB. She has a 45-foot putt for par looking at the sand trap, right? And she absolutely buries it. It's unbelievable. She had just three putt, right? She had just missed a putt and rolled OB. She steps up to the next one, and there's not a single doubt in her mind that she's going to go for it and bury it. And it's a level of confidence that even the best players ever would admire, because you just don't have that level of fearlessness when you had just experienced a major miss and a roll away. It's just hard to fabricate the confidence in that situation. And she is, man. She's going to show up in at the major in Manitowoc, and she's going to show up in Europe. There's no doubt in my mind that if Kristen's tripping over those shoelaces for real, Missy will be right there. Holyn will be right there. They're going to show up this time. They've both already been over there now. They're going to be settled. It's going to be fireworks.
Yeah. It's going to be a fantastic tournament. We're going to be talking about Worlds, it feels like, every single episode leading up to the tournament because
Sure.
yeah, and be on the lookout, folks, if you're listening still. Perks and I got some special stuff lined up for the World Championships. We're not going to tell you just yet, but it's going to be a phenomenal week, and you'll want to tune into what we have going on. Nate, I think we need to just jump into the Perks picks right now. What a weekend you had. This was potentially the best Perks picks weekend we've ever had. And
Cool.
so let's go into it. It was 15-21, I believe. Let's just double check this. 15-21. I got the lead by 6. I said last week, we're going to pick a podium and pick a winner. If you get one person right in the podium, just in the podium, you get 1 point. 2 people is 3 points. All 3 gets you 6 points. And if you pick the winner successfully in that podium, you get an extra 5. Nate, you're a sick one. You went Gannon-Burr takes the win, AB in the podium, Simon in the podium. So you got 2 people right. That's 3 points, plus the 5 for the win, 8 points for MPO. And then you picked a perfect podium. Holyn gets the win. Missy, Paige, Pierce.
Unreal.
You get 11 points for FPO. 6 points plus the 5 for the win. That brings your total up to 34. I ended up getting 28 points total. You got me. I picked Paul McBeth to win, Isaac Robinson, AB. And then I also got a perfect podium when it comes to just picking the slots. Holyn, Missy, and Paige. I had Missy winning. My total's 28. You got me by 6, my friend. How do you feel?
Man, that's crazy, but I also feel like it was really one of the most obvious picks I've felt.
Yeah.
I think that when you have courses set up like Milo, Riverbend Gold, and Glendoveer East are set up, I just think that the premium players are going to rise to the top. And the pick with Paige, she's been playing great. I don't think that her 2 performances prior to this were any kind of flash in the pan. Like I saw the Paige Pierce the old Paige Pierce, right? I saw the confidence. I saw that just like loose jaw, like confidence, man. And it was great to see her, even when things were going bad in the final round, to kind of clutch up and get it done in the stretch. Jennifer Allen played amazing, who also should deserve some flowers. I mean, she's Masters eligible player, and what did she finish for the tournament? She tied
23
got 4th
down.
place. She got 4th place because Paige birdied 18. So she shot 23 down. She's 10 strokes off of Holyn, but she's 3 strokes off of 2nd place in Missy Gannon. And she is, I think, 43 years old, Brian. She's been a Masters eligible for several years. So it's just incredible and inspirational. Catrina Allen as well, very inspirational finish, getting her first hole-in-one at a National Tour Elite Series on that blind turnover.
Oh my gosh.
9-month-old, a 9-month-old. She won Worlds here in Portland 11 years ago, and she gets 5th place. She gets top 5, man. It's, she's beaten athletes like Ella Hansen, Kat Merch, like girls that are competing week in and week out at the top. So hats off to her as well.
Well, I also don't think this is a flash in the pan. Like, for a period of time, she was talking about completely reconstructing her throw, trying to find something to give her that little extra bit of speed, that little extra bit of control. And what I'm seeing from Catrina Allen now is that same upper body timing, that same upper body movement that got her the World Championship back in 2014. Her timing looks unreal right now, and I got to give her flowers for sure. Obviously, Jennifer Allen, multiple time Masters, major champion. Congratulations, fourth place finish. But when she aced that hole at Milo, that's a hole that if you've played that course, you know how spectacular of a turnover that is to throw, and even just get a
Crazy.
circle one putt.
Yeah, it's
The re
crazy.
the reaction from Catrina was so wholesome. It it was like everybody could feel that. You could see that she's been through it. You saw the pictures get put up on the screen with the baby hooked up to the monitors in the hospital, and you can tell that she's been through a lot in the past year, and the ace meant everything to her, and I gotta say though, Nate, you know what this reminded me of? Yes,
Well,
this
your
turnover
ace.
was well, no, I'm not that pompous, I'm not that arrogant, Nate.
Well, it
Um,
reminded me of your ace. The
no, 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 no,
reactions
no,
are
no.
just like, what? I
No,
don't
no, no,
get
no, no,
it.
no.
It's in.
It reminded me of an even better turnover that she threw, which I actually think is the most underrated shot in disc golf history, and that's the turnover that she threw on hole 18 at the Fort to win her world title
Yes.
in 2021.
Yes.
The holy shot dwarfed everything. That changed disc golf fundamentally. Her turnover to get to the green was arguably no, it's not even arguably, so much more technical of a shot from where she was standing. I think it's one of the best turnovers I've ever seen thrown in competition, notched her the world title. So,
Yeah.
do you think there's another shot that is better and less talked about than that?
Well, I'll tell you a story about that shot that Katrina threw because she did that shot twice, Brian. She did that in round 3 as well at the Fort from a similar spot. We're pushing 400 feet here. And she's basically throwing a roller disc almost flat, right? Trajectory, we're talking 45 degrees up into the air, and then letting the roller disc do the work and just ride this huge turnover onto the postage stamp green of 18. She did it in round 3 somehow. And then in round 4, it just was a prayer. It was a prayer of a shot. It's a 1 in 10,000 shot. And for her to get that reaction too, where the nose kind of stuck into the ground and then back skipped back in bounds, it was just magic. The same way that when Conrad's shot was in the air and a bird flew down to it, a freaking bird flies down to his disc, dude. Are you kidding me? In the mid flight of the holy shot, the little bird flies down and swoops right over the top of it. It interacted with the flight of his disc while it was in the air. And to me, there's something going on there, right? There's a bit of magic involved, as there are in all sports, right? There's just a little bit of maybe luck, but to me, it's magic, and it gave us two really great moments. And you're right, Katrina's shot was never really talked about enough, because what was really talked about, obviously the holy shot, but then the way that Paige threw it away, right?
Yeah,
She just had to get up and down from, I don't even know, 150 feet. Um, but it still doesn't change the fact that Katrina's
yeah.
shot was next level. But to answer your question, though, Paul Macbeth at the Emporia Worlds against Gossage. Not the putt on 17, which
The
was
shot.
bonkers. The shot to get to the putt on 17. Okay, I'm on the course. I'm standing right behind him. And I'm like, there's no way he can go for it. Going for it, I felt like was conceding the tournament. It was going, hey, I'm done. I'm gonna just throw it out there. I'm gonna chunk it. But there's no way that he can throw a 500-foot plus shot right now with the uphill run up, weird roots, and the low ceiling in front of him. He had this big oak branch right in front of him to carry the OB with the wind. There was just no way he was going to do it. And to me, it's the single best shot that Paul Macbeth has ever thrown. The single best shot of all the shots, whether it be the Deer Lakes shot from
Mm,
Pittsburgh Worlds with the
mm.
destroyer, like all the amazing lines and highlights that Paul has. To me, that's the single best shot that Macbeth has ever thrown. And that one was not even talked about because he made the 70-footer, and that's was the highlight from the
Well
tournament.
well, Nate, you're right in saying that because look what happened the year before. Worlds just complete rug pull on him. Tournament's over. I mean, he could have won in the playoff, but he lost world championships pretty much by one shot. And then imagine if he didn't make that shot in 2022. 2 years in a row grinding an entire 5-round tournament with the best players in the world and all the pressure on you and
Hmm.
not getting it done. Imagine what that would have done to him. I can't
Yeah.
even fathom.
Yeah, retirement would have come a little bit earlier,
No.
right? I mean, not he's not going to retire
No.
after that, but it breaks you down, it chips you down, it absolutely does. I mean, when a player, loses the NBA finals, that to me takes a little bit of time off their career, right? They're like, "Hey, I gave it my all again." It does. It chips away at it. And when you win, I think that yeah, you could argue that that might shorten your career because you're like, hey, I'm more accomplished. But I think that it's like, all right, I still got this. I'm still at the top. I want more.
Mhm. Well, Nate, I gotta say, there was no magic with a particular player. They earned this finish. I wanna kinda wrap up this FPO discussion talking about Taylor Chocek. Very
Yeah.
anticipated player coming out there on the tour. Obviously a spectacular athlete, picked up disc golf, fell in love with it really quick, learned how to throw 70 miles an hour plus very quickly, uh, and kind of understood that to be a professional, you have to make content, you have to do YouTube, you have to make people want to watch you throw a disc, and she's done that, goes out on tour and really did not perform. I think a lot of people were saddened to see some of the early performances. But this week she was on camera a lot, and there were a lot of intangibles that I think are going to suit her very well moving forward. 7th place finish. That's the best that she's done so far.
Huge.
What do you think about her game right now?
There's nothing stopping her from being the future, right? She's as athletic as you could need to be. She's delivering flat ropes. She's throwing mid 60s really comfortable, right? The fastest Paige Pierce really throws is like 68. And Taylor can crest above 70 no problem, but she is just cruising. She's throwing like Calvin Heimberg like ropes really flat, and she has this really flat spin delivery on the putt, and she's figuring out how to golf, right? She's got all the athleticism. She has a lot of the shapes. I think she's still working on some offhand angles, like just like off balance shots. She's still figuring out, patent pendings and just total angle mastery. She's not there yet, but she's learning how to golf. And to get 7th place at a 4-round tournament, you beat a player like Owen Scoggins, Ella Hansen. It you're doing a lot of things right over 4 rounds. And yeah, she's got all the makings of being a contender on the tour.
Joins the PDGA in 2021 and 7th place at an Elite Plus event. And Nate, I've talked to some people that are runners, uh, track athletes, and a lot of what they tell me is if you're the best runner and you've prepared to be the best runner, you should win the race. There's no like resourcefulness, maybe once in a blue moon that puts an underdog ahead of you, but the best runner should win. And it's all in the preparation. It's all about putting in the time, putting in the training. A learning curve getting into disc golf is you throw all of that out the window. I do not care how hard you've worked. I don't care how many weights you've lifted, how much field work you've done. You're going to be put in a spot where you have to make a 15-foot putt with a 25-mile-an-hour headwind. And you have to make it or you're gonna drop a stroke to somebody who just birdied. There's no amount of training that can just automatically make that putt for you. You have to be resourceful in the moment, you have to battle your own thoughts, you have time to actually think, and I think it's that ability to manage your time and manage your thoughts and develop patience, and like you said, decision making that will come. The preparation part obviously helps you. I'm kinda being hyperbolic there, but it's not a transactional game. I've been
No.
beat by guys that show up after their, you know, 13-hour day, doing construction in the early morning, and they beat you at doubles league. I've seen it, you know?
Oh,
Disc
yeah.
golf is a special game because of that. The bar to entry is
Yeah.
very low, mastery is very high,
Yep.
um,
It's so
and
true, man. I
yeah,
was I was hanging out with Brian Weissman, who I think we should have on the show at some point. He has this disc golf instructional content called The Method, and he created this video game called The Path of Exile. Right? It was a huge AAA game, sold it for millions of dollars, right? The man is really well off, and then is got super into disc golf backhand technique, right? And he's obsessed with the technique. He was out there at the tournament. He was hanging out with me. I'm taking him, behind the ropes, and we're watching players up close, and he is just geeking out on technique. And he's like, you know why Paul Macbeth is like the best at like slowing down? You know how he does it, and he's like talking nonstop about the technique. And him and I were kind of geeking out. I was with my fiance Catherine and him, and I was saying how you and I, we love backhand technique, but what you and I get really stoked about is like the psychology behind what makes who's a champion and who's not, right? Because at a certain point, your technique is going to get you where you need to be on that even playing field physically, right? And at a certain point, we're almost there in MPO, where like everyone kind of converges on a similar technique and can do
yeah.
similar things with the disc. But the psychology of the four-time major champion in Isaac Robinson, it's different than the psychology of someone who throws as good as him but hasn't won, right? And that's what I think you and I get that's what I get so excited about, man. And you can just dive into forever because it really is what makes golf so special.
Yes. So, perfect technique a lot of times benefits you when you are using your entire body as a sling to eject the disc out fast and optimally fast. I get excited when I see a player do something that pretty much throws form out the window. Like when Kale LaVisca or Nico LaCastro does this really well too. They open their hips way wide on purpose to throw these floaty nose up stall shots with like a flippy putter or a flippy mid range. You can't watch a YouTube video on how to do that. That is feel and connection with your equipment. And that's what makes our game so special. It's this convergence of two beautiful things, this three-dimensional flying object that can be thrown any which way, and the rigidity of golf and how in traditional golf, refining your swing is everything. But I love that the two things come together. I think when it comes to throwing distance, a lot of players look the same, but when it comes
Yeah.
to picking shot shapes and picking how you throw shot shapes and what, molds you throw for shot shapes, that's when the game gets really beautiful to me. Watching AB down tempo right now might be one of my favorite things to watch in the entire sport because he kind of throws his uh perfect form, you could say, out the window and dips a little bit and pops his wrist a little bit last second. It's all these little intuitive things that only a master of throwing can really do consistently. So, yeah, the game cannot be solved through just training. You have to be in the right headspace. You have to have the connection with your equipment to actually make the disc do what you want, and especially do what you want under pressure. Yeah,
Well
man.
said, man. Well
Yeah.
said, Brian. Dude,
But we
let's
should
let's grade the course. What do you think?
all right. All right. Let's do I'm gonna do a quick grading for Milo.
Cool.
The courses are gonna share a prestige rating because BSF is no longer a thing. The Portland Open is no longer a thing. They share the rating for prestige. Milo, in this layout, takes out a lot of the holes that I love that are like short, technical, old school holes that really frustrate players. But I think the holes that they've chosen it's almost perfect for a championship caliber course. I'm trying to think of holes that were not used that I wish were subbed out. I can't think of too many. I would give
Yep.
this I would give this 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 9 out of 10, but I give it the 8.5 because to me Milo is 36 holes and I want all 36 holes, so it kills me that some get taken away. But great
So
course
is that
there.
for design? Is that for design?
That's for
Or
design. That's for
yep.
design. It's a spectacular property. Setting, Estacada, Oregon. Oh my gosh. 10. 10.
Yes. Let's
It's a perfect.
go.
That's it, man. That's you
It
drive
is,
through
dude.
there. You drive through the park. I love that the drive to the course is long and you just have these winding roads. The trees are creeping over you the whole time. It's, like, just out of the way enough of Portland to where you're out there. You're, like, looking at houses on the side of the road like, "Oh, I might be able to afford this house. Like, I might be able to live out in this little shack on the side of the road. Life might not be too bad for me." 10 for setting. Infrastructure is a little lower. I think they have some cell signal issues out there. I know that spectating is very good. I know there's very good spectating out there. Um Power, I think they were having to use some generators.
For sure.
I I
Definitely
would
were.
I think spectating wise, it's fantastic, so I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Yep.
That's 8.5, 10, 7.
Okay, so for me, setting absolutely a 10, right? I think that this is peak disc golf. This is one of the tournaments that if you don't know disc golf and you watch a tournament here, you're intrigued because it's a fairy forest, right? You got giant fir trees, giant western red cedars, you got bald eagles flying over the Clackamas River. I was fortunate enough to park my van in the park for 3 nights. So I'm waking up and dipping in the 52-degree Clackamas River every morning and jumping in the river in the evenings after the rounds. And I'm just walking back to my van and the sun is setting and I'm overwhelmed by the gratitude I have that we even come to a place like this, right? I'm just like full presence and just marveling at it all. And setting is a 10. Okay. Design for me, Brian, is I'm actually going to I agree with what you say about some of the holes that I feel like we're missing. And this is a bit of a larger discussion that we can talk about in another podcast, but I really feel it's amazing that we combined BSF and Portland, and this is a really premium event, one of our best events, and yet I still feel like there's almost a slight injustice to just playing 36 holes at Milo, not crowning a champion there, and leaving out a, a good number of amazing, iconic holes. And I think that a part of this comes from us being married to 18 holes. I really feel like we don't just have to play 18. And I think that there are instances where if we have three awesome short technical holes that are on the property that are like pro tour worthy, we should just play them and we should have 21 holes and they're going to play quick. They're going to play them in 7 minutes, 10 minutes each. You're adding 20 to 30 minutes to the round and you add that much more potential for separation. And we don't have to skip these iconic holes because we're married to the 18. Now, I also think a solution for this could be we have multiple tournaments in Portland. I think we have plenty of fans. We have plenty. Glendoveer East and Glendoveer West can be used, and then we can play all the golf at Milo, right? We can play both the West and the East. We don't have to combine. We don't have to lose a lot of great short technical holes and par fours. I think there's an option there. So Design for me. Go ahead. Go ahead, B.
Real quick, I just had an idea. Jeff Spring, if you're listening to this, I hope you are. That sounds great to have our boss listen to the show. Here's a crazy idea. Par 54 shootout the weekend before Portland Open, and you only take the tough par threes and you make a course out of that. Maybe you do 20 holes or something like that. Make it free for spectators. Set up the vending booths. Let everybody come out. Make it a festival. If
Yeah.
you want to, obviously you need to make money off the event. You need to be able to pay the
Yeah.
players. Find a way to have the people come for free and spend money on food and discs and whatnot. And then the next weekend, they still have their ticket to come out and go to the Northwest Disc Golf Championship. Because I
Yeah.
think the problem is it turns into a USDGC Tour Championship type deal where
Yeah.
everyone buys tickets to USDGC, and then how many people are going to double up and then pay for tickets again at Nevin?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I know
That's a
why
great
they did
idea.
it. But let's do a par 54 shootout. That would be my dream come true. Let's go to Pier
Yeah.
Park. Let's watch them throw Dreamcatcher. Come on.
Yeah.
Make it
That would
happen.
that's a great idea. And so the design for me, I think, is a little bit lower. I think I'm actually going to even go 6.5
Wow.
because there are some amazing holes there that are iconic, but then there are some holes that I feel we don't need to be playing, and the holes that they leave out, I think, and the we have some in there that shouldn't be, and then we have some left out that we should obviously be playing. And I think that that could happen even if they limit it to 2 rounds and 18 holes. So a little bit lower there. And then the infrastructure, it's amazing that we can even push out live from there. I barely even have service, right? I can't take a phone call there. I'm barely connecting to the broadcast. So but we can do it. We can still do it, and that was our biggest hurdle before. So I think the spectating there is incredible. We can park a ton of people in there in that back lot. We do have to shuttle some people in there. So for me, like a 7, it's not perfect infrastructure. And yeah, let's go back to Glendoveer.
Okay. Setting on a golf course. I don't care what the design is like. It always docks points for me. I don't like seeing golf greens. I don't like seeing bunkers. That's just how I will feel about every single course we go to that has a different sports facilities we have to use. Not for it. Give me WR Jackson. That's the pristine setting that I'm looking for. However, I believe is it Mount Hood in the background? Is that the
Yeah,
the mountain that you can see?
there's Mount Hood, and then Mount St. Helens is the one you can see on
Yeah.
11 on the big par 5.
So as we're walking through the course on camera here, for the people watching, the trees are beautiful. Obviously, the mountains in the background, amazing. So I give it a 7 out of 10 setting because that's just how I feel about traditional golf courses.
Yep.
However, design pretty good. It's the best golf course that we play. The tree's set up perfectly for it. I think it's taken a little bit of time to really nail down the design and get 18 holes that are satisfying that the players wanna play, and I think it's a triumph because I remember some of the old holes when we first started coming to Glendoveer, everyone was throwing roller off the tee. It was really uninspiring. There was too much
Yeah.
open space. You didn't really know what you were looking at. Um, so what they've come up with there is fantastic. So I give it an 8 out of 10. And I say that because you cannot curate lines there. You have to do what you can with the trees as they are. You cannot plant trees, you cannot remove trees. You just have to
Yep.
play cards with what you're dealt. So 8 out of 10,
Yep.
fantastic golf course. Infrastructure, it is nearly perfect for spectating on a wooded track. It My dream course is a heavily wooded track that feels like a zoo, where each hole has its own path around it, where everything is kind of like a grid. You walk to a hole, you can kind of view the discs flying through the trees, and then the VIP members can actually walk down the wooded fairways. But this feels like a zoo. You can stand on the outside and watch all the shots come in very clearly. You know what they're doing. Plenty of room to move. I remember one year, spectators had enough space to throw an ultra star back and forth. They were hanging out, playing catch. Like and there was enough space to where they weren't nuisances to the rest of the tournament. So high score for infrastructure. This is a 9 for me. It's almost perfect. Got the clubhouse on site. You got good Wi-Fi. You got power. Operations team's happy. Media team's happy. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's going to be my score.
All right. So setting for me is a 7, and the only reason that I even dock points is because A, it's on a golf course, but B, because of the area that you're in, like right outside, you're pulling in. And unfortunately, just in the greater kind of Portland area, there's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of people around that are really struggling and just not in the best neighborhood when you're rolling in there. The reason I do love it is because once you're actually immersed in the course, the trees, the Douglas firs are actually bigger than they are out at Milo. They are towering. I think the
Huge.
tallest tree out there is like 150 feet tall. A lot of them are well over 100 feet, and it's majestic to walk in the shade of a big Doug fir. And then, as you said, every now and then you get a peek at Mount Hood or a peek at Mount St. Helens. It's a special property. So, really love Glendoveer. Definitely my favorite golf course that we go to in the States. I think Crow Call is up there for favorite golf course in Europe. But when you talk to a lot of the players, at the press conference this year, players are in love with this place, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a lot of players that had bad things to say about Glendoveer. They're just kind of in awe at it. Even players that have been outspoken about golf courses, they're giving this one props. So for me, design also takes a few points away because there are some holes that I don't really know what the pure line is to get past the last group of trees. I'm thinking of hole 3. I don't really know if they want you
Yeah.
to go straight or if they want you to bend it over to the right and play the skip there, or if they want you to go left and play for a circle's edge putt. There's not really a pure line there. And then on 13, a very similar situation. There's a lot of players that they're just throwing at the trees and you're just hoping to get through late. And then the very next hole, that 14, that turnover, it's a beautiful tee shot. One of my favorite tee shots there. But then as you approach, it's the same kind of story. They're like, they put the basket behind this grove of trees and they don't really know what the intended pure line is, because the better shot we saw was Kyle Klein splitting those trees and then like hitting a root and stopping. But if you go like pin high, there's a gap and there's also some gaps in front, and you see a lot of luck there. And I think it would be great if it was a little bit more clear, like, hey, this is the gap. If you hit it, good. If not, that's lucky or it's unlucky, right? And then there are a lot of holes that I absolutely love. Hole 11, I
Oh,
think is
yeah.
hole
Mhm.
11 I think is pushing my dream 18. That par 5 down the hill, that second shot is one of my favorite shots to watch all year. You're talking shots that are pushing out past 700 feet on a regular basis. So much fun to watch. The spectating out there is next level. Jerem was doing my job for MPO, so I was just kind of roaming around day 3, and it's awesome. There's not a bad seat in the house. So, design 7, infrastructure 9. The only reason it's not perfect is because there's not a giant parking lot for fans. They have to go park in the neighborhood, kind of a weird neighborhood, and some of them have to, take Ubers in from the different part of town. So, not perfect there. And then the prestige of the tournament for me is really growing quickly,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You combine Beaver State Fling, which was a huge national tour in the past, one of the most prestigious tournaments to win, with Portland Open, Jeff Spring and the Pro Tour's kind of premier event. For me, this is a 9, and I think it's going to take that final step up to the 10 for prestige when it's the World Championships in 27.
Yes. 100% agree. I think my prestige for the tournament goes to, well, it's an elite plus now, and it feels like the players are starting to treat it like the biggest elite plus. So, yeah, I would give it a 9 as well for prestige, and I think a world championships in Portland is just going to be off the charts. I cannot wait. And yeah, Nate, Anything else to say to the people? That was a long, dense show. We got the Ale Open coming up next weekend in Sweden. We got to figure out a good guest to have on the show, but anything else you want to say to the people?
Well, should we make picks for Ale? Should we make some quick picks out there?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, give me your best finishing European player in both divisions. Actually, let's go top 2 best finishing Europeans in both divisions.
Top 2 best finishing Europeans in both divisions. Give me Well, I'm just gonna go straight up with it. Niklas Antila, Mauri Vilman. I'm not gonna go fancy. Lauri Lehtinen is starting to play extremely good disc golf right now, but Mauri just showed us that he's a baller out there at Konopiste, and yeah, that's just I think it was a 1067 event rating at that course. And that's a course that you have to sprint on. You don't just get to, course manage your way to a good round. You have to sprint and score. So Mauri and Niklas, I think Niklas well, I think Niklas edges him out. And then for FPO, who's playing here? Oh, well, there's somebody named Kristen up there. I'll just pick her. Well, Nate, honestly, it's the top 2.
Shoot.
Like, come on, right?
Yeah, I know. It's hard.
You can gamble. It's Kristen and Silva. They're head and shoulders above everybody else.
I don't think so. It feels good for me to get more points than you in Perk's picks. So I don't think I'm going to gamble. I'm going to gamble a little bit with MPO. I'm going to go with Mari Vilman and Jona Heinonen. Okay. Ale has some big shots. And Niklas can throw him. He can throw him. But Jona can throw him as well. And he's performed really well here in the past. And I'm just ready for him to pop off and have that good event and win a tournament. Is Ricky really flying over and playing that? That's incredible. Ezra's flying back for it. Matt Bell, Kevin Jones, they were here. They're going over for it. James has been over there for, a couple weeks now, and he's staying. He's staying through in Europe. So those are my picks for MPO and FPO. Man, I'd love to go deep somewhere, but I can't. I'd love to pick Rachel Turton, but you're not going to beat Silva. We're talking 40 rating points. I'm going Kristen and Silva. Anniken's playing. I hope she pushes them a little bit. And we don't have an American in the field, Brian. And I think that there's something to be said about that. About if I'm FPO and I'm consistently getting 10th place over here in the States, why not send it over there and play a tournament where you have much better just general odds to take down a title? I would love to see like Rebecca Cox going over there and playing both of the tournaments, Konopiste and Ale.
Yeah, but logistically, unless you booked your flight at the perfect time and, booked your lodging at the right time, I don't know. It just feels like with the major back over in the States, in Wisconsin, might not be worth it. They're going to just get this out of the way. They're going to play this tournament in Wisconsin and then head on over to Europe, and it's going to be great. Both continents kind of coming together, and then World Games in China. It's going to be fantastic. But you know what, folks? Heavy show. If you're still listening, I'm going to say this again. You're a sicko. We love you. Send us an email, abnbpod@gmail.com, and just say hi. I'm a sicko. Can you please talk about this? And you know what? We just might. I'm signing off. Nate, anything else?
Yeah, we got the PS5 game going on. Even our producer, Tosi, shout out Tosi, also has the PS5. So, send us your gamer tag as well. And
just got one. I just got one today.
Brian got one. We're going to be gaming.
$280 on Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to head downstairs and see if it actually works right now. If I got a lemon and I got scammed, congratulations, Daniel. You got my money. We'll see. I'll update you next week. Good night, folks.
That's so funny, dude. Congrats, Daniel.
Nice scam, bud.